Doing a quick vid here. I just completed a manual swap on my daily driver. It's a Volvo 850 T5R. I do not like this car because it's an asshole, but that's beside the point because now it has a manual, and I'm starting to fall in love with it already. Worked on, which was the clutch pedal and the brake pedal. So as it turns out, S71s do fit just fine. Also, between the automatic and the manual, the pedal brackets are the same. The only difference being there's a clutch pedal on one side when there wasn't before, but all the bracketing is still there. The only difference between the S70 and 850 clutch pedal is the mounting point for the spring, which is right there. There's no spring on it, is different. So the 850 and S70 pedal, the 850 pedal box will fit an S70 pedal as long as you put a bolt through the center of it from the S70 box, but the spring will not work, but as you can see, works without it, just a little bit heavier. 50 pedal box, instead of being mounted on the sides like the S70, mounted on the sides and the top, it's mounted all in the middle. You can see there I used the bolt from the S70, I had to put a couple washers on it, and it does fit. If I haven't figured out a way just yet to do the return spring, because there is no setup there for it. How that actually mounts up is the port for the fluid fill is on the side. I believe facing toward the driver's side, pointing toward the driver's side, and the actual master cylinder itself is pointing down at a 45-degree angle from the brake booster. Other thing with that too, the best way I found to do it is disconnect the actual line. I made that mistake before to not disconnect the line. It was very hard. That comes out with a pin, and I did have to pull up on the brake booster a little bit to get the master cylinder in, but it did fit. You don't actually have to remove it. The S70 shifter will fit. This is an S70 shifter. The color is slightly different and the boot doesn't work. I still have to put on a different boot that I'll probably just make, but it does actually go through the gears and does work properly. I was originally going to get a shift kit for it, but I decided not to. Other thing is the manual center console trim is not needed. The only difference being that it has this ridge right here for the boot. Probably if I did it next time, I probably wouldn't do that. The way I actually pulled the transmission was I put a crossbar and hooked the engine to that and dropped the frame, which I find to be the easiest way to do it. I did not pull the engine out of the top, and nor have I ever done that with any car. Let's see. With the splice, which I put down there, I don't know if you can see it, I followed the guide, and I actually spliced the starter wire together for the PNP switch, and I left the connector for it, and the reverse lights, which I haven't wired in just yet. While I'm over here, the other thing to note is it's best to put the shifter cables in first. You have to disconnect them from the shifter itself. They run from the outside of the car, well, like from the inside of the car out, but you have to run them in a certain way through the center console. One goes through the center and one goes through the left side. There are two spots there, and it's the best way to do it. And also run the cables after you put the transmission in. It makes it easier. Last thing that I can think of is the master cylinder, which is down there, has the bleeder facing up, not down. There's only one way that can go in, with the bleeder facing almost straight up. It's right by the starter. It's kind of hard to get to. The line goes down through here, goes under the airbox bracket, and into the master cylinder, which is buried under there. Also, when you do this, leave enough, kind of torque the line for the clutch so that it will stick in the master cylinder even without the clip in there. That way it seats properly. ECU itself does not need to be switched out. It does work with the automatic ECU. It will throw code for a missing transmission computer, which can be bypassed. There is a write-up that I'm going to be looking at regarding that. I'll put a link in there. But I have to report back on that, and I will say how it works and share with you guys. So that's really it as far as I can think of. I'll keep adding more as I find more things.